All
Yeah,
right,
we're live. We're
we're
live
live.
now.
All right, Corey boomered it. Corey lost his boomer virginity. Welcome everybody to tonight's conversation about episode 6. Before we get going, I want to let everybody introduce themselves. We have OBG70 and of course Brightest Day. Go ahead, guys. Introduce yourself. Whoever wants to go first.
I'll go. Hey guys, OBG70 here, Michael, and yeah, welcome back. I'm doing this again with Corey over here at Salty Texas Sea. We're going to do a deconstruction, I suppose, of episode 6, what we like, don't like, and what we hate.
As for me, I'm Brightest Day. I'm very cold to this. I've not read the books nor the series proper, so this is going to be an excellent cold review for me. I'm very glad to be here.
Thanks, Zach. All right, so I just watched episode 6, just like Zach did today. I know that Mike, OBG70, has seen it the moment that it came out. Mike, I'll let you go with what you want to start with first.
Yeah, we could start with the beginning, and I'll have my screen shared here so we can go past the intro stuff. And here we have starting here, I was kind of disappointed. I believe what we have here in the top left corner is the proper city of Tyr, which is, we know for the future, is a significant place. It's not what I imagined, and I can't fault them for this, but I always thought that the fishing village was part of the city proper. It was like a coastal city, probably really busy, kind of like Fisherman's Wharf area, a bunch of fishing people hanging out everywhere. That's where Suan picks up her bad language habits and her manner of speaking. They do kind of brush on that, but I just thought it'd be busier, and I was kind of disappointed that it was more remote than that. But I don't know if I'm right or wrong. It was just one of those things. And then, of course, we have an adorable little 8-year-old girl here playing a young Suan Sanche. I thought she was great. The only criticism I had at this point was that she didn't have any red lines on her face when she turned away from the net hammock there. I thought there'd be some makeup artist might have put something in there, to indicate that she fell asleep against that. But details, we don't need that. But yeah, it's fine. I don't know why they added tattoos into the story, but again, I know I'm nitpicky.
To me, that whole integration was of her with her father, her coming back, her house is burned down, and then she's on a boat, heading out. And the next thing we know, we are suddenly supposed to guess that that is the Emerald. And Zach, this was your first time watching this show. What is your impression as somebody who hasn't read the books, didn't really watch the show? What was it like for you to watch this beginning part cold?
It was just confusing. There wasn't enough emphasis on any one thing to establish where we were for someone that isn't familiar with the source material. And normally that's something for Dune, I would say, hey, you should know the book. But Dune also did a good job of explaining, hey, this is where we are.
Right.
We didn't get that here. And you mentioned the tattoos on her chest. As we go to the next scene, like they missed a very good opportunity to use those to identify who it is we're looking at.
Yeah, let's see if we can get a good one here. See if I can get a good frontal of her. There we go. Yeah.
Right. I think cinematography wise, they could have used like a panning and zooming shot to zoom in on her sternum as a child as she's sailing away from her home, and then pan that out to her in the seat, establishing this is the same person we were looking at, and avoiding the very drawn out and seemingly unnecessary entrance scene that we were given instead.
But she's a Disney princess. This
Right.
is not the Wheel of Time, right?
Very, very clearly.
Yeah.
Well, we've got Mirage Hale. Mirage 337 says their first thoughts was WTF, what's up with the tattoos? And I agree with you there. I kind of felt that whole way, honestly, with this whole scene of the Amerlin coming in. This was not the Amerlin seat. This was not the Suan Sanche that I took away from the Eye of the World or the Great Hunt. But things didn't get better as the episode went along. What if you found some things troubling, Mike, as a deep lore fan? What was it about this scene you'd say that, if anything, stuck out?
Yeah, I'll go back to this scene. Let's see here. We can go. I might. Yeah, this scene. I don't buy an 8-year-old girl able to channel, and especially channel this well. Like, she's no joke. She's
Oh yeah.
yeah, she's able to just weave those spells, and I kind of figure it's like almost you're going through puberty, you're you're on the outwards portion of puberty, 16 years old, 17 years old.
Hmm.
That's when you start knowing, okay, if you have the spark, something starts to happen. That's like the zone in which the Aes Sedai need to find you, because there's like a 3 out of 4
Window.
chance. There's a
Yeah.
3 out of 4 chance that you die when you go through the process yourself. So it's really important for the Aes Sedai to find the girls, get them to the White Tower, and start the training process. And this little girl, 8 years old, obviously she went through it herself. She did fine, but I just think it's too young. I don't.
Well, yeah.
They wanted her to be a prodigy. I get it. I understand why they did it. I don't agree with it. So that was the first thing that really kind of threw me out. I was like, what? Come on.
Yeah. I
Make
agree.
her older. Make her a 15-year-old, 16-year-old. Then I'm in. But
Well, there you go. You
yeah.
want what we see on screen to actually match the very detailed world that Robert Jordan created. And if it's one thing by, uh, I don't know, episode one, you realize very quickly that the rules of the road in the Eye of the World from Robert Jordan do not apply to this production and adaptation. And I honestly did not think that this show could get more deranged than it did in episode 5. But boy, I was wrong in 6. I really was. And this
Mm.
throne room in particular, this whole entire scene of the entrance, the Solange Sanche Disney princess doll thing going on, the imperious nature, the things that she says about how she owns the tower, she owns the world, she commands.
Yeah.
It was demeaning, and I kind of got, to me, it felt like there was a lot of representation on screen of some things that maybe happened last year that were being transposed into the story that had absolutely no business doing there.
So I can see on her chest embellishments, if you find another frontal shot of her, where they try to incorporate the various colors into her
Yeah.
outfit. But that's a very subtle tone, and it didn't really come across. You could very easily blink and miss that.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's supposed to be kind of a thing that she just drapes over her shoulders. It has all the different colors. This reminded me of my grandma's nicotine stained curtains. I
Oh God,
hated
yeah.
everything about it.
Or
And
Oh yeah.
like doilies or something.
yeah, just it was really weird. And I didn't like whatever design they went with here. I detested it. And of course I would like to put out in the background, look at all the water damage looking stuff,
I
the
know, what
brown
is
dirt
that?
and mold all over everything. Yeah, I don't it's just
I'm gonna butcher. I wanted to highlight this comment from, oh boy, the Astelis. You guys kill me with this stuff.
Osteolysis.
Thank you, the Ostalesis. It says, I never imagined the Amberlin's costume to look like a gown. I imagined a plain robe with a multicolored stole. Maybe I just missed something when I read it. No, you didn't at all. That's entirely what I expected. What we're looking at here, I don't know what it is, if these people wanted to make some type of edgy Game of Thrones costume party, but that's not what the Amelin was, in my
Mhm.
opinion. And Mike, you can call me out. When we engaged with the Amerlin, it was in her office, and she had a waiting area that's where you sweated the big bullets. And once you came in, she was tough, but she was fair, and there was none of this demeaning nonsense. She would threaten novices just to put the fear of God in them, but to humiliate other Aes Sedai
Yeah.
the way that it seemed completely gratuitous. And I don't know what the thinking was behind turning that scene into anything more than, oh God, we need something like Game of Thrones on screen. That.
Mhm.
Yeah, I felt a lot of Game of Thrones influence in much of this opening, and we go back to the opulence of the gown, standing in stark contrast to the very simple and plain outfits of everyone else, which has been a complaint I've heard from many people, that the costuming doesn't match what is described in the books, and I see that on full display here. And again, it just stands in stark contrast. And yeah, the throne itself, the entire tower, everything just feels extremely busy. And in some cases, it draws your eye away from what you should be concentrating on, which is the characters. And I understand that this is an 8-episode series
Yep.
Yeah.
per season.
Yep.
They waste an awful lot of time getting us to this point. I think this is what, 10, 12 minutes in? That's like a sixth of the episode, and we're just now getting to like the first major piece of important dialogue.
Yeah,
Feels like a lot of wasted time.
Well, they're moving the story forward, if you want to call it that. They're lurching from what happened in episode 4 to what we got in 5. I'm still recovering from seeing Loial the way that he was. Now we're in 6, and like you have 2 more episodes left. We're still saying the dragon can be, a man or a woman. I don't know where you end up in this. This thing is so deviated from the eye of the world, let alone, the Great Hunt. I honestly don't know where they're going with this other than to turn this into some type of CW Game of Thrones, because that's what it looks like right now.
Yeah. I agree with that. I always thought it was like the CW.
And that's my understanding of the primary gripe of this series is like the Dragon Reborn is always a man, correct?
Yes.
And it's based on like a Taoist, Buddhist, binary balance philosophy, which is based in religion and has a historical basis. And then they're just breaking it for the sake of inclusion, for lack of a better word. And a lot of the reviews from both pro and con reviews of the show have kind of stated that it just breaks a lot of logic to do that. You take what is an established historical balanced concept and you turn it on its head for what? And now you have a question that 6 out of 8 episodes in, you haven't even come close to answering.
What did we think about what they did to Logain now that you're showing these things, Mike? That was some sadistic, that was truly some sadistic, let's see, lawful good, absolutist bullshit that came out of the Amerlin Seat's mouth toward Logain. In the books, they kind of skip over that scene, that we're told about that later because we're focusing on the fact that Nynaeve and Egwene are new to the tower, and the story, because the story's about Egwene. And not even, we're not wrapped around whatever crazy faux narrative has been created by Rafe, Judkins.
Right. Yeah. Logain was not this guy. He wasn't. I mean, there's some hints of what he went through when he was, doing the battle there and doing war and trying to obtain more followers. And he really thought he was the dragon.
Yeah.
And but at some point he had some realization that no, he wasn't. And okay, very well. And then of course they didn't steal him in a cave or sever him or whatever language we want to use. He arrives at the White Tower for trial, and it's an actual trial.
Yes.
And when he's severed or stilled or whatever, he's basically allowed to wander around the grounds. Like,
yeah, he's not a prisoner.
He's not a prisoner. He's not being executed. He's not being tortured. What did she say? I'm going to make an example out of you.
Yeah.
For anyone else. I mean, it's it's not even close to how she would react to the situation. And then his speech back to her. I mean, you remember what he's saying?
Oh, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. It was, like that's just not his personality. And he becomes, by the way, I think out of all the Ashman, he's my second favorite.
Yeah. Because
behind Marishma. But
what is it? Book 5, book 6, Logain starts playing a role.
Yeah.
I mean, do we want to talk about those things on the stream? I mean, spoiler alert, but Logain becomes Suan Sanche's best friend. Let's just say that. It'll be, and I'm not, all right, I'll stop talking there. But
so from the cold perspective, I understand that this had to be an important moment. And I feel like if we had cut some of the footage we were talking about before, you could have given this important moment a lot more gravitas than it had. It felt like, and it's not the only thing that feels like that in this episode, that it was just kind of hand waved in a short amount of time and then moved on to the next thing. It's very, and I hate to go back to Game of Thrones, but we've ticked the box for the plot point. Now we need to go to the next plot point. And it's just, I didn't feel the importance this probably should have had.
Yeah. Oh heck, look at Oh heck's comment right now. Min saw Logain was destined for glory. And again, who's Min? Where's Min? I talked about it in my episode 5 part 2 review.
Yeah.
I where in all of the many hours and all of the money that Rafe Judkins spent or was responsible for spending, where is Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time? In just like one thread of it that's consistent through the show, that's going to lead you towards some type of vaguely satisfying resemblance to the just even the most bare bones story from Eye of the World.
Everything I've heard about the budget for this show, was it like 10 million an episode? And I hate to get, a little off topic, but it sounds like it's just money laundering.
Here's the interesting thing. I'm glad you brought this up. I got hit pretty hard in my comments section from a couple people who, this is what I asked myself: who the hell goes on a small YouTube channel like mine, reads through the comments, bothers to watch it, and then writes a mini dissertation on what I got wrong with the budget?
Mhm.
Because what I got back from this person was telling me in detail, well, you're forgetting the fact that a studio needed to be built in Prague. There needed to be all this transportation costs, then all of these COOF restrictions throughout the shoot. And I'm like, okay, why would you be putting this on my channel?
Mhm.
And what I'm wondering is are we actually getting under their skin, somebody's skin who's attached to this thing?
My
Well, to
response would have been, show me the receipts.
Yeah.
Yep. To play devil's advocate here, there is a common, I guess, a common theme here with any kind of a high budget show, that if they know there's going to be a conclusion that's going to suck up a lot of dollars on CGI and stuff, they'll actually bank it. They'll make a whole bunch of episodes.
Mhm.
If they have $10 million per episode budget, they'll spend five, they'll spend four, they'll spend six, and they bank that excess, and then they spend it all on that last episode.
Mhm.
And so you could argue that maybe they're doing cheap sets, maybe they're doing cheap stuff because that they want that finale to be just massive and then
That
keep
doesn't
people
look like
going to
cheap set. That looks like a lot of detail you could have
Yeah.
simplified for reasons we've already established.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, we have Zach on, but I was thinking about Battlestar Galactica. And remember when they go into the hangar, and sometimes, it would be really busy with Vipers and Raptors. And sometimes it looked like, oh God, like they're low on budget. So then you can tell it's just green screen, and it's,
Oh yeah, 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 absolutely.
but it never affected, the immersive quality. To get back to this episode, the tower, first of all, I don't, this was not the tower I believe Robert Jordan articulated in his books, for one. The second thing is, where are all of the novices bustling through the hallways?
Mhm.
Where are all of the accepted? Where this is very sterile, and it almost feels like somebody somewhere had a tear sheet of, okay, this we like from the Game of Thrones. We need to have this. We need to have that. And with this episode, this is the first time where honestly I could go, oh God, yeah, they're trying to make this into some type of Game of Thrones tension thing. And then you have the overt sexuality imposed on characters who in the book had no such a relationship whatsoever.
Right. That was the other thing that gave me a very much Game of Thrones feel, is the nudity and the implied sexuality later on in the episode. It just coming in cold. Uh, it felt ham-fisted. I felt no chemistry between these two characters, and to have that romance scene just in there, it really felt again like a waste of time, and b ham-fisted.
Mhm. Zach, was there anybody in this show just coming in cold that you liked from what you saw on the screen? Any character at all that either you liked or you strongly appreciated as being believable or good?
Um, I'm a fan of Guardian characters, so Lon
Yep.
definitely stood out to me. I'm very much a fan of if you saw Into the Badlands.
Oh
It
yeah,
reminded me very much of Daniel Wu's character from that.
absolutely. Yeah, good call.
Yeah, Lan is the top tier badass in the entire series, full stop. So I
Here's a
love that character.
here's a question about Lan, and maybe I forgot because episode 1 seems like a million years ago in all of the editing and videos that I've put together. Did we ever see the cape? Did we ever see
No,
the
no,
warder camouflage magical cape?
no. I heard somebody, I think it was on maybe slash R White Cloaks, or somebody somewhere said that they couldn't afford it. that it was costing too much money to do a color shifting cloak. And then somebody posted an example of some random YouTuber making their own color shifting cloak, and it was really amazing. So
Yeah, right. So when I heard Lady Gravemaster go off on this on Comics Division stream probably a couple weeks ago, she immediately pointed out, like, look, here is a cosplayer who has, for a fraction of the budget
Yeah.
that someone in a production would have, given you a much better looking outfit. I guarantee something like that could have been hopped together by someone that's just creative enough. Hollywood and Amazon and all these studios really just need to start crowdsourcing their creativity if this is the kind of stuff they're going to give us.
Yeah, but in a corporate setting, the last thing anybody is going to want to have done to them is being shown up that they don't belong in the position that they're in. Let's be honest, or maybe that's my experience without doxing myself through many decades.
I mean, did either of you watch Face Off on Sci-Fi Channel?
No.
I saw the original movie, but
well,
yeah.
okay, so no, Face Off on Sci-Fi Channel is completely different. That's a special effects competition show.
I think I saw the first season.
Yeah,
I don't remember very much.
I highly recommend that. So that is all about doing complicated, prosthetics and outfits and things on a limited time budget, with the materials you have on hand. And some of the stuff that comes out of that shows you that there is a vast array of talent in the effects industry, and they're just picking the wrong people, it seems. I highly recommend that show just on a general basis. I watched all the seasons of that show.
Yeah. Yeah. And finally, we have Moraine wearing the doodad on her forehead that, she should always be wearing, or if not always, 90% of the time at least. It finally shows up here. Now I know she had it in her hand. She had a green practicing channeling with it.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be like that's her trademark.
Oh yeah.
You look around a crowded room, you see someone with that on her head. Oh, that's Maureen over there.
I also thought it was a lot smaller, a lot less ornate, but that's nitpicking at this point.
Looks like it's a necklace, and they just draped it over her head, and it's hanging on her face. It's not exactly what she's supposed to have, and she never wears her hair up. Nitpicky again for me. But those are the things that matter because Robert Jordan cared about that. So for me, I'm just
Not only that, but I remember one of your early reviews that you sent me. You were talking about how irate, in particular, Jordan was about the Aes Sedai wearing dresses. There were no pants; they were full-on dresses, and sometimes they were obviously divided skirts, like for riding horses and things like that. But he did not want, in the comic book version of the Wheel of Time series, any Aes Sedai to be ever portrayed in anything other than dresses. And it certainly wasn't this open a box of Crayola crayons and pull out an Aes Sedai look that they're going for here. The Aes Sedai didn't walk around like with a uniform, they had a shawl or some type of thing that had a hint of their Aja, but they weren't walking around like, oh, the blues look like Cobra Commander and the reds look like the guards from the Emperor's throne room. It wasn't like that.
No, they would wear whatever they wanted, except that they would have like the color shawl of the Aja that they were associated with. And it was, I don't know, this wearing all white, wearing all blue, wearing all yellow, gray, red, it just wasn't a thing. And so I get why they did it, to simplify it, because you have the viewers that don't know anything and they just want to be able to look and understand, but they haven't even described what all of them do yet. So at this point, you're not supposed to understand, like, okay, why are these women wearing gray? What's with the yellow? Well, then they have those I keep saying offline and I'm saying it wrong, but Amazon, if you go to their site, they have, click here to learn about this. And I'm sure there's more information, but I don't want to go hunt down information. I want to learn about it in the show. I don't want to have to do homework.
I was going to mention this little conversation. I Am Vindel makes a good comment. All these ladies look, 20 years old. They look, middle age or older at best. And from the little information I was able to gather, that a lot of these characters are supposed to be much younger, right, in their 20s or late teens.
Well, the main characters, but the Aes Sedai in general, they had young, ageless faces. And it was a characteristic across Aja. It really was. Some of them had different body shapes. They were different heights. But I think it was in my third review, someone who knew what I said I were could spot them in the crowd because of their youthful, smooth faces.
Yeah.
And that is not occurring in the show. But I guess that's ageist and misogynist of me.
It was similar to the magic
Yeah.
users in the Witcher, where they go through that ceremony and they gain their ageless looks for all time, and they're
Precisely.
these notably beautiful women. Whereas a lot of, not to say anything bad about these ladies, but they just look like they blend in and are plain. Even the three that stand of all of the women in this room, the lady in green right in front of us is the only one that appears to have actual curves.
Alana. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, just as an aside, just as a detour here, I actually like the actor playing Alana quite a bit. I think she's doing fine. We can brawl about that, but I'm happy. She's not as described, but I for all the things they're doing wrong, they're doing good on that one. I'm happy.
And I'll point out another thing is, and a big part of this show's, I'm not going to say appeal, but its characteristic is the diversity of characters in every scene. And a lot of times that actually works against it, because it's very hard to tell who belongs to what group and who is supposed to be aligned with whom, because all the you have your quota of characters of various checkboxes in every scene. I coming in cold could very easily confuse two characters.
Yeah. I think my biggest disappointment with the characters shown in this scene, other than I don't quite buy Rosamund Pike as Moraine, but okay, whatever. She's got acting chops. She's been through it. But Leandrin is just not Leandrin. I saw my Twitter post. I grabbed that blonde from The Legend of the Seeker, and I put her in there, and I said that's who Leandrin should look like. But she's just not Leandrin. She's supposed to be incredibly attractive.
Yes. The thing that happened in episode 6 for me with Moiraine is I still held this shred of belief that somehow this was going to turn a little bit. And maybe they had gotten off the rails. But in episode 6 here, we started to see a Moiraine acting in a way that, from my book reader's point of view, she never would have done. The gravity of the situation of having one of the boys, which she is pretty, let me re-say that, having one of the boys that is the Dragon Reborn, potentially, was overriding over everything else. Her seriousness to that, once she dropped off Egwene and Nynaeve, that was kind of it. She was focused on the boys and what needed to happen to the boys. I think I know now Egwene is in this air quotes tower, but how can you be on episode 6 and have wasted how many episodes? And you haven't even got into the ceremony of from going to being a novice to becoming an accepted. I mean, in the books, that is an incredibly powerful, those 3 gates that they have to go through and the things that they see. I know in the last live stream we talked about problematic topics, but how are they going to reconcile that these women would have been married and having children and want to fight that because they love being married and having a husband and being a stay-at-home mom? I mean, how is that? Do we think that's even going to be vaguely represented on the screen?
No, not at all. I see Mirage disagrees with me about Alana. That's okay.
So, and again, as the cold person, pacing is this episode's primary problem, and it has none of it. Everything is slow and drawn out. This is an hour, and I could not tell you, if I hadn't read a summary, what happened, except for a couple of things. Like they could have been much more efficient with their time, and that's like not even a question. Or is it a question?
No. I mean, I'm looking at that throne room, and we could literally probably take this thing apart, take 6 hours to go through everything that was wrong. I guess with Logain, again, it was a sadistic passage. Why don't we move on to some of the other things that are on screen? What someone in the comments section, and they said it a while ago, I apologize for not calling it out earlier. They had talked about how the backgrounds in the throne room why they looked stained. It wasn't that. It was that they were all made of the sea folk pottery. I guess I can get that. I just don't remember anything in the books being anything even vaguely like that. You know, that sea folk pottery, owning it was a sign of affluence, and it was incredibly rare and sought after.
So it's supposed to be some sort of a marble pattern, that kind
Yeah.
of a thing. It's not supposed to be dirt and grime. I got it.
Okay. It didn't look like that though. I mean,
Nope.
it's
Looks like
yeah.
looks like water damage. So it got wet and then dried. I'm trying not to land on the scene where Moraine's taking a bath. I'm trying to figure out how to get past that part
It's
because I don't.
okay. I've put screen caps of them in the bath as long as there's no.
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. I'm trying to skip the boobs. The boobs.
There
Okay.
really isn't anything explicit or frontal. I don't think that would cause a problem. But
Yeah.
I can figure out where the timestamps are if you want to skip past that.
For some reason, I feel like stopping right here for a moment, but I'll go on.
Okay.
All right. So this is.
Oh God, that whole
I
thing.
I skipped this part.
No, well, after the throne room.
Let me
let's
pull
do
it
that.
off, and then let me pull it off.
There it
Hold on.
is. This is the spot. Honestly,
Okay.
this couldn't be more perfect. So after the throne room, and remember, what is this? A day or two after Landrin is trying to put the moves on Moiraine. Now she's turned into super bitch and can't wait to destroy her. What does that say about, I guess, the message that they're trying to convey here? I mean, what do we think about that, Mike? I mean, from your perspective.
It's just I know they don't like each other. I know they bicker, but it just seems like they've ramped it up for a little bit. Add a little bit more politics, a little bit more drama between blue and red, and Leandrin being, I guess, like she's not the head of the red. I think Eleda is, but I don't know what's going on. It's just really, it makes me feel like they're trying to start something that isn't there. That's the takeaway I get.
That's how episode 6 felt in general. Like
Yeah.
somebody looked at this, and you and I have talked online, but again, maybe it's just in my imagination, but I really thought I saw continuity issues with Moiraine again. And it had to do with her hair and her hairline in certain shots, that it looks one way and you could tell some of the established stuff that's there. But later on, you can tell they just have close-ups of her saying things, and it really looks like whatever wig they have on her head, which is brown, is not on the way it should be. And I'm not trying to be funny about that. Literally, it was
Reshoots
distracting.
or something.
Yeah, it was reshoots.
Yeah, so I've got three things. One,
Elena was okay.
the bath scene is from 26 to 28 minutes. If you want to skip past that, that's your target.
Okay.
Two, one of the things I understand about the series is that there's a taint to using the power in certain circumstances, and that the way this show establishes that all men are evil, and if you use the power, it taints you and you become dirty or something like that. But at the same time, like all of these women in this matriarchal organization are sneaky and secret keeping and backstabbing, and it's highly political, cat-like. And the third thing was that her face was extremely off-putting.
Oh yeah.
Not to say anything bad, but extremely off-putting.
The other thing is, have we seen any Browns at all? Because I was looking in that throne room, and maybe there was a Brown there, but they were kind of important, especially to some of the magical artifacts in the world of Robert Jordan. And again, it's a nitpicking thing, but so yeah, after we get done with the throne room, we have them trying to turn this into Game of Thrones. Then we suddenly have Moiraine going into Tar Valon to then find out and scheme, because apparently, again, this is Game of Thrones. That whole scene with Matt and having Moiraine in the wrong town, being I don't know, Wonder Woman Merlin, and in doing something, because they skipped over Shader Logoth and where the dagger really came from, and how truly terrible it was, and its true effects on Matt over time. Suddenly, I guess they had to diminish the value of the Forsaken in this horrible artifact that Matt found in a treasure room, not in a trash pile in Shader Logoth. I watching that scene, again, I just kind of got this, oh, well, this is an inconvenient thing, so let's just skip over it. When in the book, the whole tower was consulted and worked together. It took, what was it, 12? Either 12 or 20 Aes Sedai all night long to heal Matt, but Matt wasn't truly fully healed, and he was completely diminished by the entire process. In the show, it's like, oh, we need Moiraine to do this. 8 seconds of CG. Okay, that's it.
Yes, absolutely. And that was my initial reaction. It's like this was supposed to be more important than it's being shown to me. And she just becomes John Coffey from the Green Mile and heals him in less than a minute. And
Perfect.
it's not given the gravitas that I know without even knowing anything about the story that this was supposed to be more important than I was being shown.
Oh, oh man, the importance is off the charts. It had to do so much with where, it's like the cleansing of Matt is a multi-tiered thing. He first is not cured. It's minimized by Moraine using her angreal that she carries. So she has to unwrap the angreal and she uses that, and she's able to basically box away, minimize the effects of the dagger after essentially rewinding the effects of the dagger on Matt quite a bit. Gets him back to normal, so to speak. But it's going to come back, and it's going to take maybe 10% of the time, or it could take 10% of the time it normally would have taken. So he's going to be able to go out there for a year maybe before he's back to where he is right now. And she needs the White Towers. She needs everybody, and then the dagger gets stolen. And so
Mhm.
you end up, well, you have to have the dagger. How do you cure Matt? And that sets up the entire next book, The Great Hunt, which happens, of course, at the conclusion of this season, I assume. But they skipped that. They deleted that entire plot line. And Moraine just walks in like, "Oh, damn you boys, you shouldn't have used that dagger, or you shouldn't have gotten that dagger. I told you not to do stuff like that. Here, let me just take a few seconds here to cure him. Okay, we're all good. Thank you very much. I'll go have some tea." And it's just
Right. Even in a
frustrating.
vacuum, this episode just feels like all the men can do no right, all the women can do no wrong. They have all the power, and again, harking back to what I said before, to have all of this, we have all the power, but at the same time, we're also catty and backstabbing, and it feels, you know, I would say patriarchal, but it's the other way around.
Yeah, matriarchal. Yeah.
It's intersexual, I guess.
Well,
And let's see, the
yeah.
Astilias is asking, if I understand the concept of the one power, and I do to a small degree. I understand that there are aspects of it that only men can wield, that being the dragon. I understand it's like two halves of a force of a celestial magic,
Well,
divine from creation.
the symbol, the yin yang, the
Yes, yeah,
white. Okay, so the white would be like the female half, and the
Yep.
black would be the male half, and it's counterforce makes it revolve and turn around. That's what powers the wheel. That's the wheel of time is powered by the two halves
yep,
being in opposition, but also working together.
right, yeah,
So that's the
opposition
whole
and
point.
balance,
Yeah,
yeah,
The other thing too is that men cannot see women weaving and channeling, and women can't see men channeling, which
okay,
makes especially the young Aes Sedai in the later books feel very vulnerable when, do we just want to say it, the actual person who is the dragon reborn starts to do magic, and it is obviously the male form. Um, it's so many. Going back to that first episode where they started to say that the dragon reborn could be a boy or a girl. I keep saying it in my reviews, but you've taken the absolute spine out of this, out of the body of work, and turned it into a mass of like gelatinous mass that they're just trying to grab handfuls of and throw and see what sticks to the wall in these episodes. And it's not even the story. I mean, I honestly don't know why they're doing what they're doing here.
yeah. And I paused on this specific scene. I wanted to talk about his sword really quick. So, Shad on his Night's Watch recent review pointed this out, or actually, it was one of his sword reviews. He said that the katana was not the type of sword. It is completely wrong. It's not as described. It is just everything about this is incorrect. But most importantly, there's no heron on
The blade.
the handle
Yeah.
where you hold,
Well, there's a
which is
little one.
important.
There's a little one on the hilt on
Right,
essentially,
right here, or there
well,
should be one
yeah.
here.
Well, they showed it was shown in the first episode, but it was when the sword was lying on the ground, and actually, I think, yeah, I focused on it on my episode 1 review, but it literally looked like something you could buy from a flea market outside of, say, Oklahoma City, and
Yeah, I didn't see it,
buy
and
for
he
$10.
yeah, I didn't see it, and he was making a big deal about it because, and I agreed with him because it's supposed to come up, of course, really importantly at the end of the Great Hunt.
Yeah.
This has something to do with,
Well, not only that, but when they're in Camelin, and remember, again, this show is so off the rails. They're in Tarvalin, they should be in Camelin. Camelin was having all of the political strife when Rand and Matt came to the city. There was the people who had the red swaths and the people who had the white swaths of cloth. Rand only has enough money to buy the right color, which means he is aligned with Queen Morghese. He does that because he wants to wrap the very obvious heron mark on his sword from being seen by people because he doesn't want to invite conflict. Am I remembering that right, Mike?
yeah, yeah, you are.
You know, it,
Absolutely. This
I
is what it's supposed to look like.
yep.
See, it's supposed to have this deal here. This was even correct here on this, replica someone made. Yeah,
So
this is actually correct.
like I just pointed out in the chat, it's plainly obvious. The reason they gave him a katana is because Lan is played by an Asian American actor, even though the actor is Korean American and not Japanese American. It's literally checkboxing and
Yep.
woke stereotyping. Like
And that's not the correct sword for that culture that if he is Korean, it would have came from. They have their own unique form of actually beautiful swords, but that's going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, so here's that sword laid out on the ground, before the season
Yep.
started. Yeah, so I don't see it on there. So that's what I mean. It's got to mark him, and we're not gonna get that unless it's on the other side that I don't see it.
It's really tiny, and again, it looks like
Yeah.
I would almost say Bronze Age, like a hieroglyph. There's no other way to put it. It's a
Okay.
tiny. It looks like a tiny bird, like a 5-year-old would draw, and it's
But
like
it's there, so that's all that matters, I suppose.
Well, I see. I think the fact that the way they represented it was almost worse. I really thought that sword would have had a marking like you had just shown. That was a lot more ornate. The amount of time that it took to train and learning all of the movements, none of land training, Rand at all, has ever been shown on screen. None of the practice that occurs, when Matt is sick and healed, Rand is off being trained by Lan, and he's learning all of the forms. And see, we can go down this rabbit hole of all the things that they deliberately omitted. And, I can't read the minds of these creatives, but I can see the agenda they've been putting out on screen. And it certainly does say, like Zach said, all men are evil or stupid. And the last thing we can have is a man mentoring a young man, or it's certainly never mentoring a woman.
Yeah. And this scene really bothered me for a different reason. Okay, so they completely, destroyed Lan, of course, a long time ago. He's no longer Lan. But I was looking forward to this scene quite a bit. And this is when Matt pulls the dagger out, tries to slash Moraine in the face. And the intervening distance between where Lan was standing and where he ended up, where he gripped Matt's wrist and kept the dagger like an inch from Moraine's eyeball and held it there like a vice. And she just ignored it because she has so much faith in Lan. And then she went ahead and started working on trying to figure out what to do about, whatever was afflicting Matt. It was one of those badass scenes that I was like, okay, good, this scene's coming. Let's see what happens. But instead, they had Rand pull his sword out, threaten Moraine, and then had Lan go deal with that instead. And then Moraine just used the one power to stop the dagger from, stabbing her. Just so disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, and every episode, I guess maybe I've mellowed a little bit in some of my last reviews, especially doing 6 today. It's more just disgust as opposed to anger because they've already shown us this is an abusive relationship that we're in with this show. and it's we know this show is cheating on us. We know this show has it's broken our hearts. We know that we were lied to when we first started dating, that this was going to be, the show of our dreams. And now here we are, and it's like they're coming home drunk again, and it's like we know what we're gonna
I was
get.
gonna say this is the crying game of adaptations. That's a reference for you.
I saw that movie at a theater. Oh my God, that's a long time ago, man.
Mm.
But
See, now she has a thing off her face finally. I don't know. I'm disappointed. I always think that maybe the actress, maybe Rosamund, was like, you know what, that thing on my forehead, it annoys me. Can we please write it out? Can we have me use it once in a while instead?
maybe there's people. I mean, my mind doesn't work like this. Like seeing things in shadows and assigning them value that's based on some ist or phobe label. I'm wondering if they didn't want to portray more of it because they were afraid of being culturally insensitive, which I know sounds ridiculous, but considering the links of the representation, in this show, that would not surprise me, honestly.
Yeah.
Right. The few reviews I've read from sites like Polygon, just to get the other side's take on it, has just been, oh, they spent so much time deviating from the story to allow us to like explore this polyqueer relationship, and then this, for lack of a better word, lesdom relationship. And it's like these are the things they're looking to see, and they've done whatever they needed to shoehorn it in, and source material be damned, like we've seen with all these such productions.
Well, yeah, you started to really see it in, like, I've said it in my reviews, the bait and switch happened in 3. In 4, it was full on. And then, 5 was just, to hell with you. This is, we're going to make this into something it's not. Now in 6, it's like, oh God, yeah, I guess we better do something with the tower. But how can we work in identity politics? How can we work in all of these checkbox things? And you saw it in the throne room. In the Aes Sedai could not all have youthful, ageless faces. You had to have it looked like a collection of gender studies professors, from around North
Mhm.
America having a very stern conversation. And I just, it's disappointing. It's just the absence of Shader Logoth, and now following that to Matt. The dagger, I'm really wondering, how are they going to work Elaine into this story? How are we going to have Min come into this story? If they're omitting all of these other character building things, how are they going to work these other women in who Elaine was very feminine and royal, and then you've got Min who's, a little more tomboy and dangerous, but eventually she starts being a little more feminine. Are we even going to get that from a character representation standpoint?
Yeah. I don't. I can't even guess anymore because it's all up in the air. But I don't believe so. I'm not happy with who they cast for Min as just out the gate. So I don't think that she's going to be very likable. I really liked Min's character.
I did too.
She was my favorite of the 3.
Yeah, Elaine was, Elaine was a fairly standard trope.
The thing is,
Min,
my first daughter was born. Yeah, she was born before I got too far in the series, right? So it was, well, 16 years ago plus, and I didn't know where Elaine's character was going to go. And at the time, I liked her character, so her actual middle name is named after Elaine. So it's really fun, kind of funny. But now I wish I could take it back. I wish I could have picked somebody else.
Well, it sounds for me, just from what you guys are explaining, that has yet to be, shown or developed, that you're going to have kind of a toss up between what they leave out, what they leave till next season, or what they just, shotgun in.
I, I don't know really what you can do having omitted. I mean, especially Tom. Tom was utterly destroyed. I love Tom in the books. I really did, especially in the Eye of the World. He disappears for a while. You don't know what's going on. He shows up later on. But that whole thing, again, you had an older man mentoring younger men to,
Yeah.
learn how to juggle, learn how to play musical instruments. Again, these decisions to cut people out don't seem to be based on how can we make the best story. It seems to be motivated by other things that, again, because my brain doesn't work like this, I can only guess. I mean, I was around people like this in college, back in the PC days, and I put up with a lot of crazy stuff and heard a lot of crazy stuff, which, well, now what's going on in the world. But to see our entertainment, um, I mean, all consumed, it's
Yeah.
not like this is a one-off. It's literally every property. And now, God only help us, what are they going to do with Lord of the Rings? I mean, how many people
Oh
have they
dear.
burned through? How many people have left, and they don't say why? They're just like, they're gone. They're off the set. They're splitting. Speaking of which, we lost Matt. Is that right, Mike? He decided
Yeah.
to get off this production.
Yeah. No reason stated. He deleted his social media and he just was like, I'm walking out. And yeah, I think it's before this episode was even filmed. Well, I think it was during the filming of this episode he left, so he wasn't there for the end for the gate scene. But they put him in as they took, I guess, maybe an extra stand-in or something they had there. They digitized maybe previous footage and superimposed it over his face. They made it seem like he was there. This is kind of the rumors I'm hearing. There was, I guess, there's a lot of discussion about it out there. There's a lot of research I could go and do if I wanted to prepare for an actual live stream, but I didn't do that.
Do we think this is a potential, air quotes, Me Too thing? Do we think this was like the guy saw what they were doing to the show? Is there any reliable intel on this at all?
There's zero reliable intel on this at
Okay.
all. It's complete dead silence. So
Anybody in chat
I
out
like
there?
to pretend. I like to pretend that he didn't get along with the cast members because he wasn't able to buy their nonsense, and he kept bickering with them about stuff, and like this is stupid, and you people are stupid, and they were like, we got to get rid of. If it's either we go or he goes, and then they got. I like to think that that's my dream, but based on
Well,
zero evidence.
he doesn't want the Disney or the Daisy Ridley treatment post Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah.
I think the guy still maybe wants to have a career. I could be wrong. That might be unfair, but we talked about it on the other live stream. I go to Amazon whenever I open up because I watch it week by week, this show. And I look at the star, they have that star rating thing there. And I remember a couple of weeks ago when it first started, it was only about half. And then suddenly it was like all 5 stars. Well, I was just back there today and it's creeped down a bit. It's I'm not sure if Amazon's just adding more stars just to, I guess, make it look better from a graphic standpoint. But I'd really be interested if anybody has any metrics about episode 1 to episode 6. How many people are still hanging on to this thing, and not just on Twitter saying, oh, look, I saw myself in this representation on the screen.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even have a clue, what's going on with that. It's just really, really weird. There have some chats here.
Yeah,
Zach
let's go.
says he's leaking it was difficult to work with. I don't
Okay.
think it's a Me Too thing. I think that's who's the guy that got fired from The Expanse, the pilot guy.
Sandbar.
Yep.
Yeah. He was my favorite character. I guess it's pretty serious. I was hearing lots of rumors. Gary Neurotic, his Nooner today had that discussion, and they got into some of those details. And you
And I
guys
mean,
can check that out.
difficult to work with is such a vague way to
I
put things.
know.
That could mean
Yeah.
literally anything. He could have walked off because of creative differences. He could have walked off because of his pay. He could have walked off because of COVID restrictions or Me Too,
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
just, yeah, it could be
Or
anything.
yeah,
Could
or
be
it
anything.
could be the personalities of the creatives who were telling him to do things that, maybe there was some abrasive stuff. And in the world we live in now, you don't need to prove that someone did anything. You just need to make an accusation.
Right. It takes next to nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, look at Vic Mignogna. Look at all the nonsense that goes on in comic books, for God's sake. In those covens of. All right, that's a whole other topic. But
Yeah. To go back to your previous point, you asked me about, the Rotten Tomatoes score is starting to dip down a little bit. It was in the mid 80s on the user
Hmm.
score. Now it's in
Yep,
the high 70s. So
I saw
it's
that.
dipping a little bit too.
They're not going to let it fall anymore. I really don't see that happening. I think they fortified it and locked it now, much in the way of Santa Inc., where your home run is 4%, and you just need to like
Hmm.
admit that you've taken the L and lock that before it goes to 2%.
Yeah, I
I
thought
don't even
this.
know that they've admitted on that one yet.
I've thought the same thing. Brian here says that he was the best. Like he really stood out. I really thought that at least other than Rosamund Pike, just because she's got so much experience, I felt that of the newbies, he was definitely on top. He made everyone else, Rand, Piran, Egwene, Nynaeve look terrible by comparison.
I think if they would have played him younger and not made him an absolute degenerate who sleeps with women to steal their jewelry in episode 1, and instead played him, maybe just at 20 or 19 and a little more innocent, but, kind of that like the way he was in the books, instead of being this degenerate from an alcoholic family.
I was look
You
Oh
yeah.
my God.
I was
Sorry.
looking
you
for
mean it might have
someone
been better? Go ahead.
I was gonna say I was looking for someone in chat to say he might have gone home and read the books and came back and said, I'm done. I'm out.
Hey, maybe he was the one that actually looked for the source material and realized, hey, we're doing some shitty stuff here.
And well, here's the other thing is we don't know what processes they went through because so much money was spent on this with test audiences, and what the receptions were. And maybe, I mean, like this is all absolute projection, obviously, but maybe this is a guy who went, you know what, my career is more important to me. I would much rather be doing like legitimate theater and be taken seriously as an actor, even if I'm never on screen again, than be stuck with this thing, which turns into the
Mhm.
last Jedi of, like streaming fantasy.
Yep. Just
Speaking of which, go ahead.
I was gonna say I was going back on the parts I'm showing here. We have Moraine and Lan having that conversation where he says, it's basically every 2 years we come back here and you numb the bond so I can't feel what you feel, and then you go off in secret. And he knows, of course, what she's doing because that's been said. But I just find that interesting that they're going to try to set up that this is a normal thing for Moraine to do. That she comes in and goes through her little portal, which is complete nonsense.
Let's talk about that. Honestly, I was watching that and it's like, what is this? The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? What the
Hmm.
hell are we doing? It's literally like someone who has only read the Cliff Notes or watched old DVDs from Blockbuster of, let's say, fantasy movies from the last 15, 10 years, taken those ideas and then stuck them on post-it notes and then tried to overlay them with character names from the books. And because like there's no cohesive narrative here. I mean, characters are not only not doing what they're supposed to do,
There we go.
they're discussing things that never happened in the books, and I don't know.
So is this supposed to be a gateway to the dream world that she goes in then back out? Is this supposed to be a gateway for traveling? Like none of these things does she have enough power to do, nor the knowledge to do. So
No,
I
being able to dream like that was an incredibly rare skill in the tower. What was it? The last person who was good at it was 1,000 years ago or 800 years ago. Am I remembering that correctly? The ability to dream walk.
yeah. Yeah, it's a very rare thing, even at best of times. And yeah, but you have to also have enough strength to do it too. And it's
Yeah.
not just a talent, but like, I don't know what this is supposed to be. They just wrote it in as a secret little fun portal that takes you to your lover's room. And it's just so, I mean, I'm jealous. I mean, I would like to have something like this, but
Oh, dude, it's Hogwarts.
you know,
It's
yeah.
the room of sexual requirement. That's what it is. Oh my God. Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's literally like, oh, Harry needs a room to get it on with it's just ridiculous. But
It sure looks a lot better with her hair down. I will admit that.
yeah, I was surprised that was the same actress, quite honestly.
Yep.
She
Did her,
didn't
did
look
her
like
face go with it?
Yeah.
it's it just that whole scene in the throne room, all I kept thinking was, why are they dressing her like a Disney princess? I just like, what are we doing here? Are they going to sell action figures for this? I don't know.
Is this bamboo in the background? What is this?
It looks like it, yeah.
That's what makes me think it's like
That's
either
exactly what it looks like as bamboo.
yeah. Are they saying that this is some house someplace really far away that is a gateway for traveling for basically
Oh
teleportation long
God, it's a
distances?
port. Are we saying that Moiraine can use a portal stone to go back to Soan Sancha's small town where she keeps her little love shack? You know, her
This
little.
is what I'm
Uh,
asking. This is
uh,
really strange.
Oh heck has a good comment. It looks like a fish hut, possibly like she had when she was a kid.
yeah,
Mhm.
good call. Good call,
Again,
Ohad.
we're not, that's not explained though. It's just, here's a room, and again, this is this ham-fisted, romance scene where they could have just had a clandestine meeting and talked about what they needed to do. And
Yeah,
they
it
just
could be
added
her
this.
private. It could be her private room that she just decorated with her traditional cultural, decor. And she
Yeah,
just what you wanted to have this. So that's what it has.
it makes
Fully
sense
respectable.
if you're talking about dream walking. It makes sense that this would be a location in a dream for her. So
Yeah,
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 I just from the books when the Amerlin wanted to talk with Moiraine. Oh God, what I'm forgetting the name of the woman who kept the door for the Amerlin seat. What was the name of that? Leanne, is it?
the end. Yeah,
Yeah, Leanne. Even when the Amerlin seat asked Leanne to leave, Leanne would be shocked. But that was the extent of how secretive it was. Is even her number two, her Riker
yeah,
there in the tower couldn't be part of it. And then she wove all of these wards around her own office just so she could talk very
yeah.
businesslike, very collegial, but also very desperately about what has Moiraine found out. And she hadn't been gone for 20 years or whatever the hell it was. It was a
Hmm.
couple of years. And she had left expressly on going in front, trying to find things. And just now turning into this like this love scene between these two characters who in the book maybe when they were teenagers coming up through being novice and being accepted, maybe there was some experimentation, but now that she's the Amerlin, this whole story arc thing does nothing but it's nothing but representation, and it does nothing to move Robert Jordan's story forward. And that brings me to something that I don't know how you guys are going to feel about this, but the scene where Moiraine is air quotes disciplined in the throne room,
Yeah.
I got to tell you, was I crazy in thinking that that rod that she pulled out was absolutely some type of
like symbol.
thank you.
Yeah. No, you were not the only one to think that.
And the overhead shot where the Amerlin is in her dress with her legs apart, holding this long white rod, which
Yeah.
is throbbing. I'm just like,
I saw someone in the chat mention earlier that they would have never used the rod in this way. Like this was
absolutely
just not
not.
proper.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Let me go back to the meeting between Maureen and Suan there. I wanted to say, okay, so you're right. They created the wards, they dismissed Leanne, and the way that I interpreted that part was that Leanne assumed that Moraine's about to get her ass beat, like that the Amerlin's like, okay, no witnesses. You leave, so I can just tear into Moraine, and she can cry and wail, and nobody gets to hear. That's why I'm warding the place so no one hears her scream. I'm going to town. I'm going to beat the crap out of her. So that's kind of like the what I felt Leanne thought in the books. And then, of course, as soon as the wards are up, they collapse into each other's arms. They say, how much they've missed each other. How goes the fight? Did you find the dragon? Is he one of the boys you brought with you? I got to meet them all. I got to find out what's going on. So that was how I interpreted all that. That but then they added this punishment thing. Now, if I want to talk real quick about this part, this oath rod scene, I have a completely nonsense theory. I have zero evidence to back this up at all. So please do not get too critical. Please just hear me out here. It's possible that this is a trick. That instead of making Moraine swear to leave the tower, to obey the Amerlin, to never come back, this is a trick to remove the three oaths from Moraine. And by doing so, gives her more agency to do whatever she wants. Now, the only reason that I don't believe I'm actually right is that you see the one power flow from the Amerlin through the Oath Rod and go into Moraine, that would indicate to me that they are placing a vow upon her or whatever you want to call it. So I don't think, or the oath upon her, not taking the 3 O's off. But I think that would be a really cool twist if they actually remove the 3 O's instead of putting a new one on her. Because all they have to do is say, hey, Moraine, here's my direct order. Never come back to the White Tower. Will you follow my order? And Moraine would then have to say yes or no. And if she says no, well, then do this. But if she says yes, she's bound by the 3 O's to never tell a lie. She's locked in. She can't come back. That's good enough. So why go through this little ceremony here?
Right. It's not explicitly explained, and I believe if I remember correctly that this entire banish me so I can go do my thing is Moraine's idea, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
So for her to have the emotional reaction she has during this overly long and drawn out scene, there's something underlying there. I would agree. It's not clear as to what that is, or she's just overreacting to something that was her idea, which makes even less sense.
Yeah.
So unless there's a precedent for what you're positing, then that's the only thing I can.
Well, there is. I don't know how much of spoilers we want to do, but let's say there are Aes Sedai who no longer have the oaths bound to them.
True.
They do exist.
Right.
So it can't be that difficult. I think you just have to have possession of that oath rod for a second or two, and it's pretty easy. That's what really prompted that whole idea there. So again, I think I'm wrong. It was just something I thought of at the time, going, "Ooh, wouldn't that be cool if?"
Mike, I got to admit, I had a problem in the reel, and I had to split for a second. Tell me what it was that you posited on that, or is it too much to go back through?
Oh no, it's fine. I'll summarize. Instead of taking the 3, or instead of putting a new oath upon her, a 4th oath, she actually has a trick. There was a whole plot to take the 3 O's off of Moraine, so that she'd have more agency to lie, to kill, to do whatever she needed to do, to make sure the dragon got to the last battle and did his thing. So, but I think I'm wrong, because you could see the one power flow from Suan down the Oath Rod and into Moraine. I believe that it was legit. They did put a 4th oath on her. I don't have any facts, but I think that would be a cool twist, is if it was all a plot, back in the bedroom. Hey, you know what? I'm bound by these 3 O's. I almost got busted by the White Cloaks. There's that meme that you see once in a while pop up where, I have the questioner with me today. He'll be brief, and he walks up and he looks Moraine right in the eyes and says, yes or no, are you an Aes Sedai? And it's just like, she has no way out of that, which would have been a clever way of writing.
That's just like that scene in Monty Python, like when they're trying to cross the bridge. It's just like, that's what that scene reminded me of,
Yeah.
Were they trying to F with us just by doing that?
Yeah.
This thing with the rod and the pulsing rod that Moiraine is holding in her hand, I'm not trying to find things that are phallic or symbolic. They've been put on the screen.
The oath rod is a thing, it does
yes,
exist.
It is, absolutely, but it would never be used like this. I mean, to do something
this is a
like
good
that.
Wait, hold on. Let me see if I can find it again.
Yeah.
Based on what you said. Go ahead. I'm looking for the perfect.
No. It's just this whole thing. It became this sexual, emotional. It just went on and on. Like Naomi in The Expanse, not being able to get enough air. It's just, like Zach said, so much of this just went on and filled the screen, and they just kept changing and dragging it out. Yeah, there's the overhead scene.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, it was like, is that strapped on, or is she holding it? It's just, honest to God, I didn't make this show. This is the visual representation that they're putting out. I wasn't looking for that stuff. Why was it put there? I don't know. I just,
yeah.
And then we've got that character. You were just on that last scene. What's her name? Morgaine. She doesn't really play a role in this stuff until I think it's the 3rd book. But see, again, they're grabbing these characters out of air, and if they happen to be female in an Aes Sedai, they're going to jam it. Just like Karine Nagasi, for some reason, gets killed by Logain. She was never there. That was in The Great Hunt, wasn't it? When, yeah, was it Egwene and Nineveh are being smuggled out of the tower to use the ways, and then, a certain Red kills Kareen. And instead, we've got Kareen battling. It doesn't even matter. Once we go down this thing, I'm going to need to go get some bourbon, like I'm Doomcock over here. But Zach, from your perspective, some of these other scenes with what you saw, being a lover of science fiction and fantasy, tell me what you thought about this stuff, and then these later scenes with Moiraine.
I just feel like this had like a bipolar pacing problem. We spent way too long on things that didn't seem to matter to get to things that should have mattered that didn't have enough time spent on them. And then we get to this, this closing scene where everyone converges on this gate, and it just, I don't know, everything lacked weight for me. Mm-hmm. It lacked weight. It lacked field of importance. Even at the end here, when we close on Matt leaving everybody behind, like you said, that's reused footage apparently, which is sad. And the acting was not great. I don't know, man. I just felt underwhelmed by the entire episode, in all honesty.
Yeah. Well, I've been underwhelmed with the acting since the beginning, or the first episode. I don't like any of the actors. But then I don't know. I mean, there's worse. There's worse.
I mean, again, I like Lan. I do like that guy. Go figure. He's like the resident badass, and I like him.
I've liked him too. I just wish they would have written him the way he was in the books. And everyone can say, well, he wouldn't have had enough depth. He was a badass. If Lan would have had his cloak, his color hiding camouflage cloak, just having him walk on screen, and like eating a piece of chicken would have blown people away, because he is he's a badass. Instead, we've got Lan, who's like, I don't know. I don't want to call him a beta, but he's certainly not the hardcore campaigner who you were terrified of him,
Yeah. He's just a normal guy. He's got all the feelings of a normal guy. He cries and he jokes and he laughs and he has a great time.
He's
perfectly
a dog.
Reasonable for everybody else, any other character, but Lan specifically is very stoic. Maybe he cracks a grin once in a while and it's a big deal. One of the things that again I heard Shade or Shad or whatever, Shade I think mention is that there's that line from the book. You want to know how to be a man. Whatever comes, you face it on your feet. You don't cry, you don't whine about it. You just salute and you ride on. And that's Lan in a nutshell. Nothing affects. Well, it affects him internally, but he doesn't externalize it. And he keeps it all in the wraps. But with all the crying and the ceremonies and the pounding his chest and cracking wise and just being a regular person, they've just emasculated the poor guy. He's no longer that guy. He's no longer the top dog, badass sword fighter. Knows all the things. He's like Strider without the personality.
Oh, that's absolutely true. That's what I thought of in the books was, and again, Robert Jordan, by his own admission, wanted to make a fantasy series that Tolkien's readers would enjoy. Now, he didn't just cut and paste things, but the archetype of Strider in that loner, tough guy, not a berserker character from Dungeons and Dragons, but more of like that ranger, but this would be more of a ranger, fighter. Powerful archetype in the books. And in this, I mean, I like, oh, it's not true. I understand that they wanted to make him softer, but with everything else in the totality of what's been changed from the books, it's just, that character just seems like every time I see him do something that's not Lan, it just makes me like him less. And I know that's not fair, but it's true.
Yeah, there are ways to make characters softer in spite of their stoic toughness and in addition to their stoic toughness, and the latter of which would have been much better.
Yeah. Now, Robert Jordan started writing Wheel of Time, especially Eye of the World, right on the heels of releasing his last Conan novel. So he had Conan in his mind. In fact, Fael, Piran's future wife, can we spoil that real quick? Her mom is Tenobia, which is a direct ripoff from Robert E. Howard's Conan universe. Tenobia was Conan's queen. So there's a lot of references from these different kind of fantasy novels that he puts into the story, the books, the Nine Rings Inn. There's all these things. So I imagine he did borrow traits from Conan, having just finished the book when he started Eye of the World, that he put into Lan, that he put into Logain. You can see little snippets of these characters. And so I think that some of the sternness, the toughness, the no nonsense parts of Conan were what Lan has, and then Conan obviously he had his soft side too, and he liked to laugh and party, get drunk all the time, and womanize. So there's that aspect that isn't Lan at all. So it's not a copy paste, definitely. But I can see some traits.
Speaking of characters, how about Loial? I wish I would have never seen Aussie7798's comment, because he says Loial looks like Burger King and he can't get it out of his head. And you know what? Thank you. I am going to I am going to use that going forward, Ozzy. Let's talk about Loial a little bit, since we really didn't get into that a lot.
I like the actor. I don't like what they did to him.
Yeah, I said the same thing in my episode 5 part 2 review. I think you can see it. You can absolutely see that who they cast would make a great Loial. But the eyes are wrong, the eyebrows are wrong, the ears are wrong. Not only that, but the dude on screen, they can try and play some games with camera. He can't be more than 6 feet tall, if even that. Loial in the books was how many scenes he had to stoop to get into a cottage, and they had special sized beds just for Ogier, Instead, we've got this guy who
he's 6'3".
Is he? Well, then he's like 3 inches, he's 2 inches shorter than I am. And the Ogier should be what at a minimum, 7.5 feet. 8.
Here's some fan art that I like.
Yeah.
I mean, like between the hair and a set of high boots, he could have achieved that.
We've got Heck, who's saying 10 feet tall. I'll buy that. I thought he was more like 8-9 feet, but I'll take 10. Yeah, okay. A Trollic is 8 feet. You guys are great in the chat, by the way. And you keep us honest,
At least a head above everybody else around him would have produced the desired effect. Head and shoulders, at least,
Have him stand on a box.
Right.
I keep going back to these other.
Here's my favorite. Here's my favorite one.
Oh, yeah. That one is awesome.
Yeah, making people taller is literally one of the oldest tricks in movie making. So they should have had no problem.
Get him a full apple.
Look at Robert Downey Jr.'s entire career.
I was just going to say.
Look at Tom Cruise's entire career.
That is no joke, seriously. The other thing, too, is just going back to talking about fantasy IPs from 10 years ago. Harry Potter. Look at Hagrid.
Yes.
I mean, Hagrid, I'm not saying that Hagrid would be a perfect analog for Loial, but my God, you're a lot closer, and
I was fantasizing about getting Andre the Giant back and reviving him and putting him in that role. He would be funny as Loial. He couldn't pronounce the words. I mean, I'm not saying really, but I'm just saying he would be funny.
No, it's true. And there's also the fact he's very, very dead, but he would be great. He would be great.
There are plenty of other wrestlers or guys that have done that kind of work that are that size. You can find the right size dude. Well,
just look at Lord of the Rings, how they made the hobbits look small.
Exactly.
I mean, you could
exactly. That's what I thought they were going to do with Loial. I'm not gonna lie. I saw, because you can't help but when you're like looking at review articles, there was a picture of, I thought it was like Tina Turner Frankenstein, and I looked at it and was like, oh, this is Loial. And
yeah, I mean, you move him around in the camera a little bit and put him on a box, and you get the force perspective you need. Like that should have been a non-issue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, look he wears lifts. The shoes are like 6 inches of lifts.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't look it. Considering the guy's 6'3", he should be almost 7 foot there. It just doesn't look it. And even with that giant mop of hair on top of his head,
Yeah.
should be much bigger proportion.
Yeah.
Now, I find it interesting that they got rid of the horses, and then Nynaeve decides to question why we have to go through the gate. Like, couldn't she have asked that question before the horses all ran away? I don't know. Just thoughts.
What are we doing at this gate? Yeah.
So there's Matt there. I was fooled. Whatever they did, I did not notice any trickery. I thought he was there the entire time. I thought he finished out the episode, but people that know, I guess, more about character replacement, CGI effects, and whatnot, they claim that none of this is him. That this is taken from other scenes and spliced in, and I don't know.
So are we just going to skip the training part of being an Aes Sedai? Is that where we think this is we're leaving this?
You mean for Egwene, or what? What do you mean? Who's getting trained?
Yeah. I mean, anybody. Egwene 9 going through the process of the three archways. Especially for Nynaeve, because that happens.
Well, that happens in Dragon Reborn, though. That happens in Dragon Reborn.
Okay, but you see what I'm saying is, where are we now?
Or no, it happens. Yeah,
I thought. Oh, good Lord!
Just from a simple perspective, you're 75% of the way through your season. Now is not the time for a training montage.
Yeah. They could do some things while they're traveling through the ways, but I mean, they have 2 episodes left. So,
but these are the ways.
Yeah.
I mean, Loial's the only. Well, Loial knows how to navigate the ways as an Ogier.
Yeah. And find them. And find them too. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like the compass that finds the ways.
Yeah. And
this isn't the ways, by the way. This is, this whatever this is.
That's what I'm confused by. Are they taking the ways out and turning it into this because Moiraine has to be, godlike?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we could have cut some of the stuff, right? And we could have put in a simple explanation of where the ways came from. But I mean, you have to then go into like the men at the steading, and then as a reward or as a thanks for letting the men who are going mad stay in a steading. Well, then you have to explain what a steading is, how that affects people who can channel. And then you have to talk about the tree of life and the leaf that they use from it.
Right.
Create the ways to grow, and
which would have been beautiful. It would have been just like Rand and Camelin. I really had hoped that we would get into the Ogier lore, that when we introduced Loial, he had a conversation with Rand in the library where he talked about the fact that he was young and that he had escaped from a steading because his mother wanted to marry somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
And he wanted to go see the world. And it's like,
smart man.
I love Loial. I loved him. It was like he truly felt this truly original character that I hadn't seen in fantasy genre in a long time. I don't know how to say it. It was this positive embodiment of nature without being this, Gaia over the top Wiccan thing. But it was the male. It was like the Green Man, to have that manifestation. And instead, we have Loial being like, how can I be your manservant, Rand? And just all of those things are gone. And, you just said it, Mike, where how can you do that? Well, how could you not do that?
Yeah.
Add it to the list for this show.
Yeah, because you have to explain where does Machen Shin come from? That's the entity inside the ways. Well, it's the insanity of the ways, which is a living thing.
Yes.
Not the doorway doesn't open because Moiraine commands it to, but you have to use the leaf because it's all a living object, and the insanity's out to get them. It's chasing them down inside.
Yes, and you have to find the leaf. And there's no way Moiraine could lead them through this. You have to have an Ogier do this.
Yes, exactly.
I guess you could play with that, but the very first time when you're introduced to that as a reader, it was absolutely terrifying, and Loial did not want to do it. This was not something you did lightly. Again, this can't be a portal stone. I don't know what this is, but anyway.
No, this is the interest of the ways, literally. Without the vine work, without the leaf work, without the socket, you pull the leaf from A and put it into
I
B.
know. And you had the
Just nothing
look.
there.
You had the
Yeah.
look, and it was this tiny, beautiful, little intricate thing.
Yeah.
It was like when in Lord of the Rings, when you got Gandalf, speak friend and enter.
Yes.
Essentially, where's that tiny little leaf that I need to pick off this beautiful ornate leafy scroll work? This writes itself. You
And
have to
this
go out
looks
of your way to make crap like this.
and this looks so awful. Just I don't know if this is CGI, if this is practical effects. It looks like styrofoam,
Yes.
and they just painted it. And yeah, they went down to Home Depot and got like some shelving, and just put it around for some trim there, made it look like cement. I mean,
It
I
looks
don't
like
know.
somebody bought this stuff from the prop yard where they shot Game of Thrones, and this would have not even been in the foreground, it would have been in the background,
Yeah, background, yeah.
you know? We've been going at this a long time, lads.
Yeah, we're done though. We're at the end, except for the part where our favorite character.
Oh God.
Oops. Where is he? There's the ways inside. There he is. Bye, Barney.
Unbelievable.
Nice knowing you. I really want to know what his deal was, why they cut him out, or he left. I guess he left. They didn't fire him. He left. Said you could
I'm
take.
sure that'll come out at some point, especially if
Yeah.
people keep asking.
Yeah, I don't know. He might be under some kind of NDAs and stuff. Like you can quit, but here's the NDA. You're not allowed to say anything.
Much
possible.
like a certain author of a later book series who could not possibly say anything in his role as producer than be positive about the changes that were made, although he might not like them.
Mhm.
The video I made on that, it blew up beyond any rational expectation I had, and the ratioing on that video is nothing I've ever seen before. The hammer being dropped. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And of course, we're talking about Brandon Sanderson. And I quoted an article from Forbes magazine. Corey didn't just pull this out of thin air. And I read it. I read the Reddit article. I took what was said and I parsed it away from what you could tell was, in my opinion, Sanderson going, yeah, I really didn't like that. And yeah, Perrin killing his wife was a bad idea. And yeah, I didn't like Matt at all. But I love what they did with the show. It's like, okay. Then we've got the article in Bounding into Comics. Was it today or yesterday? There maybe were a couple of them by John F. Trent saying the exact same thing again. This article from Forbes, which was, I didn't misrepresent what Brandon Sanderson said, but what I didn't do is carry water for the press release parts that very clearly, in my opinion, were forced statements. And
Mhm.
I really wonder, and why I bring all this up is the NDA is in place for this show. There's no way that Barney guy is ever going to talk, and if he did, he'd probably lose a lot of money. And not only that, but with the way that Hollyweird works, not work again because he's not an air quotes team player.
Yeah, that's what I go with. I don't, obviously no facts to back this up, but I like to believe that's the truth because at least that means that somebody's, said I'm not dealing with this. This is a no for me. You guys carry on, and good luck to all of you. So I would like to think that, but with Brandon Sanderson though, I can't really forgive him, even if he needs to make his shows. He's got some stuff happening. He wants to get his Mistborn trilogy done in some sort of a live action version. He's got all these things he's doing. He's got to toe the line. He's got to be cool. I don't forgive him because he was like the first name assigned to this project. And he should have had more authority over this. But I think it's really Amazon, but he could have pushed back. He could have been more vocal. He could have been like, you know what? I disavow what they're doing. This is a complete tragedy.
I see what you're saying. I think given the fact that it's Hollywood, it's current year, everything that happened last year, the things said by people like Oh, who's that director that ruined Star Trek on the big screen? Blocking it.
J.J. Abrams?
Thank
Abrams.
you, J.J. Abrams. You know, what did J.J. Abrams say last year? No more white comfort, no more middle class comfort. Clearly,
Yeah.
there's something going on in Hollywood, and it's manifesting itself. Jesus, and what isn't it manifesting itself in? And I think Sanderson, I think you're right. I think he wants to get all of his books made. I think he's done some pretty darn good work. The last 3 books of Wheel of Time, not my favorite, but it is what it is. But I would like to think that he was trying to shepherd this thing through a minefield, knowing that he had to play the game and trying to win skirmishes where he could to preserve what integrity he could. You know, when you're confronting people who approach an intellectual property, and instead of learning it and knowing the characters, they have their XY axis of woke representation bingo cards that all of them need to be blacked out. It's not just one line. You literally have to you have to daub every square to win on this one. You know,
Yeah.
I just think he tried to fight for what he could. But when you lose the battle, when you lose the battle and make Matt a damn degenerate, you know,
Yeah.
out of the gate, I don't know where you go with that, because especially Matt's character art over time. Oh God, we talked about this. He is one of my favorite characters in the book. He is what he becomes. It's just great.
Yep. Carlos says Red Eagle would probably sue him, meaning Sanderson, I assume. Sanderson made it very clear he's under no contracts, no legal documents, nothing preventing him from calling it like it is. The only thing that's stopping him from doing that would be pushback from either being canceled or, you know,
Not
his
having his
projects
own.
he's got in the works. He wants them to be made. So
I think it's the latter, you know, especially current year.
yeah.
Wow. I have no hope for Amazon's Lord of the Rings. Honestly, I didn't have any hope a year or 2 ago, but after this, wow. I do not know. I have no idea what to expect. All I know is after the first episode, it's not even going to be 50% Tolkien. You
Right.
know? What do you think, Zach?
I think everything I've heard, given the small changes they want to make, like introducing, you know, hobbits
Nudity?
that weren't there during the age,
Oh, yeah, they weren't even in the Second Age.
and just I don't know. I have zero hope, but I had zero hope when I knew that that property was getting taken over, and the last steward of the estate wasn't signed on anymore.
Mhm.
Like the very clear road marks were just laid out before us. You could see what was coming, and now that we're, you know, several years into this battle that we're fighting, it's yeah, it's just you gotta grit your teeth and roll with the punches at this point.
And we'll always have the Lord of the Rings trilogy, you know?
True. Done right.
You know? I really wish The Hobbit would have been done better. Come on.
Yeah.
It could have been one movie.
Well, it would have been worse if they didn't, you know, get to that point where they begged Peter Jackson, please come save the show or save the movie, because he wasn't the original. You know, he came on and kind of fixed everything and kind of redid it. They really had to beg him, like, please, and he was like, no, I don't want to work on that project again. No, please, no, I don't want to do that. You know? So, I guess it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
My point.
Well, you're about to see what it could have been.
Yeah. You know, at least Netflix has the guts to cancel something after a season, you know? Like Cowboy Bebop, you know? It's like universally
If the backlash is
criticized.
strong enough, man.
Yep.
I saw today that somebody was starting a writing campaign to bring back season 2, and I'm like, how small is that room, and how many different colors of hair are on the people writing that, you know?
They're only going to need one piece of paper, probably front side only.
Yeah, their pronouns are have no taste. I mean, my God, that show was terrible.
I never saw it. I tend to, you know, not deliberately watch things I know are going to be a disaster. I'm only watching this for the people out there that, you know, occasionally want to stop by and hear me rant about it. But yeah, really sad stuff here.
This has been really great, guys. I'd never like to overstay my welcome. And I actually have a house guest here that I've been avoiding, but I need to now go be social. I want to thank you guys for showing up, and I would very much love to do this again for episode 7.
I'm in.
Okay. Zach, I won't hold you to it, but I got to tell you, I really have appreciated your perspective in coming in and keeping us more grounded instead of us, Mike and I, just going into the weeds on this thing. So thank you for showing up at short notice and putting up with me pestering you. I really like Brightest Day's work a lot. He does these amazing streams where he reads Dune and other fiction. He does work around action figures, other stuff like that. He is a solid guy, and he showed up for me tonight, and I just want to say thank you for that, Zach.
Thank you guys for having me. Thank your chat for being kind to me. I'm glad I was able to participate and, chip in some hopefully meaningful way. This is great.
Thank you very much. Very nice meeting you, by the way.
Yeah, shout
You
out
too.
your channel, man. Please just tell everybody how great you are, because I'm not even kidding. Zach is fantastic.
Have you figured out how to make Zach some mod yet?
Probably not. I don't know.
So do what I told you to do, but in the YouTube chat and not in the StreamYard chat.
Okay,
And
you
then
got it.
full screen me while you do that, so I can actually show up behind the highlighted chat that you have going on.
Oh Lord, see, I'm total boomer on this. That might have to wait for another time. All right, you guys, Zach, you go ahead and vamp. Let me try and do this.
Full screen me.
Oh
Yeah.
Lord.
Don't leave the stream.
Oh,
Okay. Well, you guys can see me now. So my channel name is Brightest Day. That's Brightest Day, one word. The I is a 1 and the A is a 4, because that's apparently just how I chose to do it. As Salty was saying, I do a bevy of content throughout the week, including model building streams, gaming streams, creative videos around science fiction. There's a series I'm particularly proud of that's called Cylon War Stories, where I take the actual stories of U.S. servicemen and place them in the fictional universe of Battlestar Galactica. That's just some work that I wanted to do, and it's been really well received. My primary piece of content, however, is, as was stated, Booked with Brightest Day. That's Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday nights. I read classic sci-fi novels to you. Currently, we are doing Heir to the Empire, the Star Wars Expanded Universe novel, on Monday nights, which I will get to here in roughly 10 minutes. Wednesday night is Dune, and then Saturday night is Space Crime Domino, which is a book by fellow YouTuber Kai MFS. All of those books are in playlists on my channel. So please, if you have a penchant for audiobooks, please check those out. I will be picking new books as soon as the year's end, so those will be a surprise. I'll probably do a video announcing what I'm reading coming up, but that's what I got. Again, thank you guys for having me.
Thanks, Zach. I really appreciate it. Go check out Brightest Day. He's a fantastic creative. Thank you very much. Mike, go ahead and shout out your channel. Mike, did I lose you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Probably.
am here. I apologize. Yeah, guys, we're at OBG70 on YouTube and bitten_8 on
screen in.
Twitter.
There you
Okay, yeah. And you can find me over there. I do occasionally make videos regarding Wheel of Time. I am going to branch out on other subjects at some point. I don't know exactly what. I mixed feelings about the first episode of The Expanse. I may cover that sometime this week. Other than that, back to Salty, and I'll see you guys next time.
All right. Thanks a lot. Well, thanks, everybody. You got to see me do Ultimate Boomer Moments on this, my very first live stream. I am going to get better at this. A big shout out to Zach for helping me in the background on this thing. am going to be looking for mods going forward because I need adult supervision in this thing. So if anyone is interested, reach out to me on Twitter. I would definitely send you a McDonald's burger coupon book for it. So thank you for showing up tonight. The support has been overwhelming. Your engagement and questions have been amazing. And we will be doing this probably again after episode 7 airs. Have a great night, everybody. Adios. See everybody later. Good night.